Hey, this is Kelly with Kelly's Magical Realm. I want to talk to you about spiritual wounding and soul loss. Now, the terms are new to me as far as the actual, spiritual wounding, for instance. The word, I should say, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. The word is new to me, but what's behind it is not. So, spiritual wounding, it's actually when a traumatic event happens and then we question our connection to God. I'm sorry. I've redone this video and I refuse to do it again. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect, and I keep tripping up on words because this is it's a lot at once. Spiritual wounding, soul loss, they all go hand in hand. But anyways, I want to go back to the spiritual wounding. It's traumatic events that happen, or an event, and it makes you question your connection to spirit. Okay, it makes you just wonder, hey, is God really there? Is there such a thing? Or when I die, is it gonna just be over and then it's it? I mean, even though we talk about it all the time, like our past lives, and I've even seen them. How funny is this? I think this is the funniest thing for me to have, and I have it now. I have spiritual wounding because I heard it this morning. I listened to myself, and I was questioning what was going on to me, and it was like spiritual wounding. And I laugh because I've seen future lives. I've seen past lives, and I've heard spirit. So it's just, it's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing for me to have this. However, I'll tell you right now, I do not fully, and I'm being completely honest, I do not fully comprehend death, and I'm not going to pretend that I understand it. People have said, and we've heard it, we've seen on spiritual, other people's channels, or, people say it's a part of life. It's a part of nature. You're not going to live forever. I feel like these are all unfound bases, mainly for an explanation. Especially, and I hate when some people say, it's a lesson, or we planned it before we came down. I hate hearing that, because I don't want to hear that, my cat wanted to die that way, or, someone close wanted to die that way. It's hard hearing that. And I think it's because I'm not ready to hear it. That's why I still suffer at times from the spiritual wounding. Because what happens when we don't understand something, or something bad happens to us? Who are we going to blame? It's going to be spirit. A lot of times, whether we want to admit it or not. I don't really like admitting that, because deep down we all love spirit. I just feel that we go through things at times, and it's the not understanding. It's just that lack of connection that we're feeling with ourselves, and that's where the soul loss comes in. Because if you're not feeling connected to yourself, how are you supposed to feel connected to spirit? Soul loss is when you don't feel like yourself, and psychiatrists will call it disassociation. And what that is when you feel numb, you don't feel emotions, you don't feel empathy, you don't feel compassion, you don't feel like yourself, you don't enjoy the things that you used to. It's like a blah feeling. It's like you're on autopilot, just going through the motions, just going through life, feeling like a robot. I got that picture of Jim Carrey and Dick and Jane, when he's pretending to be drunk, and he's on a table, and he's like the corporate puppet. Do, 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 do. Isn't that all of us going through the motions of life? You got to do this and that to have food on the table and clothes, it's like we got to do all these things and jump through hoops. That's how I feel sometimes, and that's okay to feel that way. I think the biggest problem that we go through, I know it is for me, is the judging. So when I'm feeling a certain way, trying to judge that, getting the little critics out inside of myself. All right, you shouldn't be feeling like that, or you shouldn't say that. That's not appropriate, but it's our feelings. Maybe we should fine tune certain things, like if a word came out harsh, or if we go to say something to someone and it's not nice, like you don't want to be mean to people. So that's not correct. Like you don't want to hurt someone else because you're feeling pain. You don't want to inflict it on others. It's not a good feeling, is it? Like when someone hurts your feelings, and you wouldn't want to do that to someone else. That's why it's important for us to go within and talk to ourselves, because a lot of times when we're on autopilot, or some things are just in our subconscious mind that we're not able to get through at the time. How many times have we done things that we didn't even want to do? Think about that one for a minute. How many times have you done things to please others? That's a scary thought. I don't like admitting to things like that. How many times have we stayed in toxic relationships to save someone, right? To save someone else, or to maybe feel needed, because like I'm sure we're getting something out of that as well, to stay in these toxic relationships, or that trauma bond where you think you're getting something out of it, or that person you feel so connected to because of that trauma, that wounding. There's so much that goes on within each one of us. It's a complex process at the time, but it doesn't have to be if you listen to yourselves. And I think sometimes we do anything we can to run away and distract, but you think you're running away from your problems, but you're running away from yourself. And in turn, you're the one running from spirit, because spirit doesn't leave us. They can't. I've read wonderful books by Sylvia Brown, and they resonate with me. They're contracted for life. Our spirit guides and guardian angels, they ain't going nowhere. They can't. They cannot, because they have a contract with us. They can't leave. They're with us for life. Whether they like it or not, whether we like it or not, they're there, And at times we forget that, because when you are experiencing soul loss, when you're disconnected from yourself, you're not going to know the truth. You're not sitting in your own power. And I'm putting my hand on my heart, because that's your center of truth and knowledge. Like when you're feeling your intuition, you're coming from a place of heart. And I've watched wonderful spiritual people do these amazing meditations where they'll say, they're contacting their higher self. It's almost like they're calling their energy back to them. They're asking them, their soul, to sit in their heart for a moment. It's like, okay, sit with me. Like asking yourself, all right, sit with me. Let's sit in the heart, and actually seeing like I look at it as like maybe some white lights coming down into me, into my heart. I heard another really cool person say, having your ears just like kind of float off into your heart so you can hear your intuition, just anything that feels right to you, but when you really, I don't know, I like doing that. I like putting my hand on my heart. I feel like I can hear my intuition better, because I'm like reminding myself, hey, let's listen for a minute, let's not listen here in the head. Let's listen here in the heart, because our mind is not always right. Our mind can pick up other people's energy. Our mind can be programmed since we were young of what's right and what's wrong and all this. It's like we're really here to unlearn everything. In a sense, the programming and everything. We come in the world whole. It's coming down, we're whole until we get into like the parent's body, but that's a whole nother thing, of the trauma that we pick up from that and the bloodline. But we're whole. We have everything that we need in here. And I think that we forget that. And it's from like suppressing things. But again, spiritual wounding. When you lose the connection to spirit, it's because of losing the connection to yourself. You can't lose spirit. They never leave. But the soul loss, when you feel disconnected, you're going to feel disconnected from spirit. And they may take a step back at times too. I hear that sometimes from spirit, they take a step back. And it's not for punishment or anything. It's just taking a step back, because when you're healing, right, they don't want to take up your energy. It takes up energy to talk to spirit. And when you don't have a lot of spirit, when you don't have a lot of energy at the time, they're not going to want to be like right up on you. So that's why you might not feel them, because they're taking a step back a little bit. But anyways, I just wanted to bring up this topic because I thought it was absolutely amazing when I heard myself talk about that spiritual wounding and everything. You know, feeling that loss of yourself and loss of spirit, you know? Because in a sense, at times we may get mad at spirit, or we may not understand what spirit's doing, but it all comes back to trust, right? But you have to start with yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to learn, you know, to listen. It's all about listening to yourself. And again, just start with little techniques of writing things down in a notebook, like listening to yourself, your inner self, not your mind, not your thoughts. Learning to hear from here, you know, really listening, opening up the channel and the connection to yourself will open up the channel and connection to spirit. It's knowing the difference between your mind, your thoughts, and then your intuition. Your intuition speaks very silently. The loud noises, that's your thoughts. That's the thoughts running. And I shouldn't say that's your thoughts. That's thoughts in general. Because again, don't hold on to those things. Please. Please. Because a lot of it is, like I said, it's programming. You know, it's other things. It's outside noise. We pick up on these things all the time, watching TV, watching things, or other people talking and stuff. That's their life. That's their creation. That's their world. That's their words. We can pick them up. We're sensitive, you know. And when we do, we got to decipher. Was that someone else, or was it really me? What am I feeling? You have to do this all the time. In this world, one thing you have to get for sure is in touch with yourself. If not, you'll be lost. And you don't want to feel that way. You know, so you really have to get in touch with, is that my feeling or is that someone else's? Because you know, when you're feeling happy and then all of a sudden you feel off, you just picked up something. You just picked up some, I made it sound like you picked up a disease. You just picked up someone's energy. And that's easy to do. I mean, we're all doing it. We're all passing it around, you know, right? We have to find the awareness within ourselves to stop it, you know, and stop for a minute and deal with it. Instead of like, you know, when someone, my therapist always say, anger's like a hot coal, right? Someone throws it at you and you grab it. You don't have to keep it. Like, why keep it? Throw it back. And I don't mean with words, just be like, you know what? You can just not even say nothing. I'm just going to put that down. That's their emotion. I'm not going to pick it up. But so many times we do. You know? So many times we do. You know, for instance, I had someone say to me, you know, because I, you know, upset one day. And you know, I was just like not understanding things, or, you know, feeling like someone wasn't being compassionate for me or not being there for me, you know, and it's like, then we started passing the hot coal around. So that person's like, all right, you know, you're feeling like this, you know, and then they're like, their response back was, you know, how many times you made me feel that way? And I'm like, wait, I'm just trying to talk about this one situation. And then that person brought up a whole list of things. I'm like, wait, I didn't even know some of these things. So and I'm getting off the point for a moment, but I'm just saying, when someone throws that coal or whatever, don't hold on to it all the time. You know, don't hold on to even your own anger. It's okay to feel it. It's your emotion. You have the right to feel it. But just try to sit with it first before you react. I think that's my biggest thing that I've been learning. Before I react, is it worth it sometimes to, like, you know, when someone says something, is it always worth it to react? Right? But sometimes it's like you get caught up in, I want to express myself when someone does something. I want to make them aware of it. Like, I'm feeling this certain way by something they did, you know? So it's hard in life, I think, to find these fine lines, because it's like you want to express yourself. You don't want to suppress things. It's just finding the right way to say things to people, you know, because we're all sensitive. We all have feelings, and we want to, you know, be careful of those, because we don't want it to happen back to us. You know, we don't want that hurt to keep going back and forth, right? In life, I think in life, like, this is like the whole world, right? It's all reacting to these emotions, and we got to start learning what we're being triggered, what's triggering us, right? What is making us act this way? What's going on? If we all started asking ourselves these questions, I think it would start to get to a better point of healing, you know, of really sitting with ourselves so we can reconnect back to ourselves. This isn't hard, you know. I know in a lot of circles, they'll say in shamanism, you know, you gotta get these fragmented parts back, acting like it's like this hard process, but it's your right, it's your energy. Call it back. A lot of time, your soul ain't going far, because you'd be dead. Just remember that. Like the loss of soul, like I've been talking about soul loss, your soul ain't that far off, just like spirit isn't. You know, it's just it felt the trauma and it left for a bit, like a part of it, you know? So it's like feeling safe again in your body. If you have to, imagine it. Imagine your spirit coming back to you, calling it back, saying, okay, I am ready to feel my energy. I want it back. I'm calling it back. And you might have to do this every day until you start feeling comfortable again with yourself, you know? It might take a little bit, but just keep doing it. Don't give up, you know? Don't give up on yourself. We're all worth it. We're all here for a reason. And don't get caught up in the whys and why did these things happen, and having to know all the answers, you know, because that's not really important. You know, it's like, even if you had the answers, you still might question it, you know. The answer might not be something you like, you know, or that you're ready to hear. Did you ever feel that way? Like maybe you weren't ready to have all the answers all at once, that they'll come to you when it's time? You gotta, it's basically just trust. It's trusting the process. But I'm gonna stop here. And I'd love to hear from everyone else. If anyone's going through this, if they're going through the spiritual wounding or soul loss, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear from others, you know, how they're doing and what's going on. Thanks for listening.